Thank you, Susan, and thanks to all of you who are participating in this program today. I'm delighted to be here because one of my passions is to share the experience that I have accumulated over years of working around the world, leading international projects and managing a highly diversified workforce. Whether you are managing a team in your home country or in a foreign country, chances are that you're working with individuals that have a wide range of backgrounds, different educations, and a different set of experiences. In other words, a global workforce. Managing a global workforce is a challenge, and in order to succeed in today's global environment, it is imperative to update your business skills. Unfortunately, nobody is teaching us the global skills that we need to face situations that are unfamiliar to us. So today's program is designed to provide you the tools you need to do just that. That is, to update your mindset and your global management skills. I'm trying to change the slide. Okay, sorry about that delay. With that in mind then, today's objectives are first to better understand how the global market has changed. To be successful, we need to know why a large number of Western companies have been failing when entering foreign markets. In general, companies fail because their perception of the world is out of alignment with today's realities. So a second objective today is to provide insights into why your perception of the world may be out of alignment. Third, I will introduce a proven 5-step model that will help you break away from traditional business practices that are significantly inadequate to address the demands of today's realities. And finally, this program aims at providing you with facts and insights that will help you fine-tune your leadership and management skills so you face today's global market with confidence. Here are 5 real-life examples that illustrate some unexpected situations that I have personally encountered when working abroad. These are common situations that you may face as well. Managing virtual teams, for instance, is something that we have to pay more attention to. Dealing with individuals when confronting unfamiliar situations. Discovering the true human nature, which is very important to relate to people on a one-to-one basis. Handling kidnapping threats, which may happen, and dealing with closed societies. I invite you to ask questions about these real-life examples later in the program. But before doing that, let me introduce myself a little bit and share how I built the confidence that I have today to travel and do business successfully in countries I have never been before, anywhere in the world. I grew up in a very international family with roots in Western and Eastern Europe, Latin America, and Asia. I was also a very, very curious person who took an early interest in learning about people, their behavior, and their way of thinking, regardless of their physical characteristics. I also enjoyed being challenged, so when I grew up, I chose engineering as my professional career and didn't stop until I got a doctorate degree. My first job was with Exxon, now ExxonMobil, and in part because of my ability to understand and manage people, I soon went into management. So my primary role throughout the years has been to lead and manage teams charged with some very challenging domestic and international projects. As a result, I have traveled to over 40 countries and have conducted a wide range of business in every continent except Antarctica. It is some of that experience which I will share with you today. We won't have enough time to cover all that is needed, but I will share with you a source that you can expand on the concept that we'll cover today. Speaking of confidence, when working and traveling abroad, it's very common to hear executives charged with opening new markets to say, I have never been to that country. They feel like they are going to Mars, all alone and without their normal support system. It is a fact that you act with confidence when you are in familiar territory. You know exactly what to do. And this is because you make use of information you have already stored in your brain. You don't need to think. But it's different when we are faced with unfamiliar situations. Lack of familiarity weakens our confidence. We become anxious and our brain stops working properly. The same happens to executive teams when considering expanding into a new market, particularly when the company realizes that the competition is already ahead of them. Many of you may have been in meetings where discussions get heated because everyone has a different opinion. Meetings break up without reaching any conclusion. It's like mental paralysis kicks in. The problem is that at the end, lack of confidence sometimes results in overconfidence, as executives decide to just focus on what they know best and hope that it all will work out, which unfortunately seldom happens. There are plenty of examples in the literature that describe how well-established Western companies have managed to fail in foreign countries. Here are some examples of American companies that have learned important lessons when going overseas. Their mistakes and lessons learned are useful to companies all over the planet. So let's mention, for instance, that Walmart is a classic example of failure overseas. They failed not in one or two, but in 6 countries, one after another, while they persisted in pushing their U.S. business model before learning how to pay attention to and understand the markets they were trying to enter. Best Buy, Home Depot, and Caterpillar failed in China, and JCPenney failed in Chile. What was the common thread? It was their inability to open their minds and understand the local market before they jumped in. Now, we don't have time to discuss all of them, but let's take Home Depot as an example. They entered the Chinese market in 1996. To their credit, they observed the market for 2 years before opening their stores. Unfortunately, they were convinced that they knew what to do, and even though they took the time to observe the market before opening their business, it was only to gather data on the market size and the country's economic outlook. They totally failed to detect and learn about the preferences of Chinese families. Now, Home Depot is known for its business model that is to serve a do-it-yourself culture. In America, we like to buy the tools that allow us to improve our homes. So Home Depot was not ready to accept that the Chinese didn't grow up in a house filled with tools, and so they preferred to hire people to fix things. In other words, the Chinese are a do-it-for-me culture. The result was that after 6 years, in 2012, Home Depot was closing not 1, but 12 of their stores in Beijing. In an interview, the CEO of Home Depot said, "We learned a lot after 6 years in China." Well, that is a very nice admission, but as a stockholder, you may have to think about the cost and loss of value that the company incurred because of their lack of global skills and inability to understand the market. Here are some examples of failed business models exported abroad, and these are situations that you see many times, unfortunately. For instance, Walmart tried to sell American football to a country known for their devotion to soccer. Nobody was interested. JCPenney insisted in selling clothes for tall people, mostly 6 feet tall, in a country where the average person is much shorter than the average American. Again, nobody bought the clothes. Best Buy built a standalone stores outside main cities in countries where most people don't own a car and have to depend on public transportation, that didn't necessarily reach the Best Buy stores. Caterpillar was an interesting situation. They wanted to participate in the construction of large Chinese cities, but noticed that the Chinese preferred to use a small machinery. Instead of offering what the Chinese needed, wait until the construction projects were large enough to use Caterpillar equipment. Well, surprise, by the time the Chinese needed larger machinery, they were building their own. So today, Caterpillar is blaming soft demand in the Chinese market for losing stock value and missing their quarterly earnings projections. Taking on international assignments, I have learned 2 things. First, out of need, people in foreign countries have developed their own way of doing business, designed to match the lack of infrastructure and other local conditions. Their local practices may look inadequate to our industrial